I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Yana Gorskaya and Dane McMaster, Emmy-nominated editors on what we do in the shadows. First of all, congratulations, both of you, on your second Emmy nomination together for this show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How exciting. Where were you on the morning or afternoon, wherever you were in the world, when you found out you were back at the Emmys, Yana?
I think I was in France, actually, in the south of France, and I got a text from Dane. I woke up to it.
I had just woken up and was quite groggy, having some tea, and I read the news.
And yeah, it's so cool. Like, what's better, Dane, the first breakthrough nomination or the second one that's like a seal of approval from the Academy? Which one's better?
Yana can answer that.
I think the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. I'm thrilled with both of them, but the first one was really special, and especially it came in the middle of the pandemic, and so there wasn't a lot of good news, and it was nice to have something to celebrate.
True. And then but the Academy's like, you know what, we're not done with you. We love you that much. We want to nominate you again. And it makes a lot of sense. This episode that you submitted, Go Flip Yourself, I was really hoping back before the ballots were released that you would submit this one. Honestly, I mean, there's plenty of choice. The whole season's been so strong, but Go Flip Yourself is so good. So, Yana, why did you decide that this was the episode that you wanted to submit?
I think because, as you know, my editor side recognized that it was a Herculean kind of episode for editorial. Like, this was basically creating an entirely new language of a completely different show, and we wanted to do it as authentically as possible. And so it took just an enormous amount of effort and care. And I think at least other editors we hoped would recognize that. And so we put it up because it was a ball buster. Like it was so hard, and we loved doing it. And we love the episode, as we do much of the season. But
of course,
particular editorially was a bonanza.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack in terms of the way this show is put together, but this episode is so different. Dane, is that what attracted you most to putting this out there as your best work of the season?
Yeah, it was such a different episode for us. Yana and I kind of described it a lot of times as a pilot for an entirely different TV show, because it had its own music and its own title sequence and graphics, and everything about it was not the opposite of what we normally do, but so different to what we're normally doing. So it was a special episode in the process of cutting season 4.
And finding those points of difference, because our show is already a documentary, but figuring out how to make our language different with a reality TV format was really like a fun kind of clever meta editorial challenge.
Yeah, it's like meta on meta. I'm actually wondering, Yana, did you decide to go and look at how other reality shows in that particular genre? Yes. Yeah, was there a lot of work involved in checking how the pace was and how you would switch things up?
Yeah, I directed this episode also, so even when I first heard about that we were making a home renovation episode and that we were going to do it in that style as an episode of an entirely different television show, I immediately threw my hand up because I love those shows. I watch the shit out of reality TV, and Dane does too. So as soon as I knew I was doing it, I kind of dug in and watched a bunch of episodes, and I made RDP watch a bunch of episodes, and then I called up Dane and I was like, Dane, this episode is coming down the pike, you have to do it. And then he went and he watched a bunch of episodes, but he had already been watching, but Dane, you created a whole kind of Bible of the language. Like you went through and went, okay, well, we have to do this kind of transition, and we have to do montages that are sped up, and we have to, all of these things. Like we wanted to hit the greatest hits of reality TV language.
All of which are things that we secretly want to do when we cut TV shows and we can't. So it was kind of a laundry list of things we'd like to play with.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. It's almost a dream come true. And to me, it's like it's an homage to the best of reality TV that over the last 20 years, this is what most of us, watch on an evening when we're half asleep and we're tired, or we just want to watch something that's just so engrossing and fun and silly. And
it was important to us to do it with affection.
yes.
Like we didn't want to make fun of reality TV because we love reality TV. And I think Marika Sawyer, who wrote this episode, has a similar kind of love of the genre. And so like it was our little What We Do in the Shadows love letter to reality television. Yeah, thank you, reality TV, for getting us through it.
That's right. Yeah. So true. So let's talk about this show generally. It includes so much hysterical, outrageous, ridiculous, and sublime humor, one-liners. The show's very good at that. As editors, Yana, what kind of pacing works best with comedy, do you find? Or is that really not a good question because it just depends on each episode as it comes?
Well, it really depends on the genre of comedy, and it's a very taste-based measure. For me, it's fast. Like I feel like air is, unless it's a very specific brand of awkward air, is the enemy of comedy. It's so we're constantly, and we have tools in our kit on Shadows that we wouldn't have on other kinds of shows, where we're able to jump cut and speed through things in a way, and also take things that were designed. We have fantastic writers, but sometimes the episodes are quite long because we just have so much good material, and so we will look at like condensing what is a scene into a montage, or we're constantly playing with time and mostly attempting to shrink it.
So that means like on a scene or a sequence with a lot of dialogue, Dane, would you say that you favor a certain rhythm when curating the sequence of shots because you don't want to have a lot of dead air? Or maybe you do. Maybe you want to see Kayvan Novak give a ridiculous look because he's just heard something silly from Natasha. Like, so talk me through that. It's actually a really difficult thing to get right.
I don't think we would ever pick a take because it's the fastest take. But certainly in constructing a scene, that rhythm of keeping things moving is very, very important. And it's something that gets refined as we move through cuts. They tend to get quicker and quicker. In terms of like a pause or a moment of awkwardness, I absolutely gravitate towards that stuff. I probably more so than Yana will try to get those in. But those moments have to be great and really earn their place. If it's a 5 second to 10 second awkward moment, we definitely look for them and try them, so it's not just rapid pace dialogue.
Dane and I are both immigrants, and I don't think we have a kind of standard sense of comedy pacing for an American audience, and that might be part of what makes Shadows feel a little bit different as a show, is that we bring a very deadpan European sensibility to timing. Certainly Dane does.
Yeah,
but we're surrounded by Americans in post, so we're not
It's a hybrid, yeah, for sure.
Hybrid.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the creative team are from other countries, but that's, I think, gives this show just this extra little shine. It feels like something that would have come out of the UK or Australia, New Zealand, and I just can't tell you how much I enjoy it. And there's not a lot of shows these days, and this is not a criticism, but there is not a lot of comedies that actually make us laugh out loud. Many comedies, are really witty or even quite dramatic. This one, guaranteed there's going to be lots of laughs, and a lot of it comes from the mockumentary style that we've seen lots of times before, but it's just used to perfection in this. I'd love to know, Yana, that mockumentary style. Now, you've been on for a few years now, so you're all starting to perfect it, but how difficult is that to edit? Is there a lot that goes into the thought process of timing for mockumentary?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of thought process that goes into it. I find it very natural. I started in documentary, so I was trying to mimic those rhythms and to be as true to it as possible, because I think the part about, we're doing very broad kinds of comedy, but it only works and actually makes you laugh because we try and do it in the most grounded version of a really broad kind of joke. So, everything about it, when we're in production, we just talk about how to make it feel real and have, even our extras looking at the camera and like all, and we'll do a big gag, but we'll play it completely in the background of whatever's happening in the front, because that's what life is like, as opposed to like a sitcom version of a gag like that. So I don't know, I find it really natural, I guess, because of where I came from. But I don't know that it's like a necessarily natural sense of rhythm for regular comedy editors. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. Dane, what do you most value about working as a team with Yana on a show like this? And how do you typically work together when you're editing an episode?
Yana and I have worked together now for 9 years, or just over 9 years. So I trust, honestly, Yana's a friend, and I have trust in her decisions. I have trust in when Yana likes something that I'm on the right path. I have trust that she doesn't like it, that I'm probably on the wrong path. Our working method has always been kind of passing things back and forth. And that when I work with Yana, I get to create something that I wouldn't necessarily create by myself. So that's always a fun process.
Yeah, that's it. And what about you, Yana? What say you about this collaboration?
I love Dane is my absolute favorite person to work with in post. And I find a lot of times when I'm working, even when I'm actually not working with Dane, I'm thinking about ways of making him laugh. I think about like, I know I'm successful when we, back in the days pre-pandemic, when we would work with our offices side by side and I would pass him something and I'd hear him laugh at something, there was nothing that would please me more than tickle.
Yeah, it's hard to make a comedy editor laugh. So when you make somebody laugh, your cut's getting close.
Mate, that's a tough crowd. So yeah, you're right. It's so that would be so gratifying. The show is such a showcase for the actors, all of them. Everyone seems to have a favorite. I love Kayvan Novak in this show. Just looking at him makes me want to smile. What are your thoughts on the killer cast, pun intended? Because a lot of there's such a part of your lives. You're staring at them every time you edit an episode, Yana. So what are your thoughts on how important they are to your process?
They're absolutely crucial and they're wonderful. And I don't just stare at them in post. I direct quite a few episodes as well. So I'm with them in production and then in post. So I feel like I pretty much live with these people and I adore them. They bring so much. They're fantastic improvisers, actors, humans. And a lot of the difficulty of our job is actually cutting down everything that they give us. Dane and I will do so many versions of a scene because we have so much improv and so many ways of doing them. They're marvelous and I love them.
Yeah. And Dane, what are your thoughts on, are there any in particular that you gravitate towards, or you just love what they provide you and then you have to struggle to whittle it down to something that will actually fit in an episode?
I don't want to call it favorites. They're all wonderful in different ways. And it's fun moving between those actors. A scene with Laszlo is very different than a scene with Nandor and Guillermo. Or a scene with Mark, any Colin Robinson scene is very different than any of those things. So it's always challenging because you're moving between those characters. and like Yana says, then trying to get things down to time, because we generally have so much fun stuff and great improv. Ultimately, Paul Sims, RHP, and Sam Johnson and Sarah Naftalis will help, further get episodes down to time. But I can't say who's a favorite. They're all favorites.
Yeah, look, that's fair enough. It's a Sophie's choice. My final question, and I'll start with you, Dane, is that this last season, it took a turn in terms of the direction that the show is going. It's now this hilariously demonic household that's become 3 vampires and a baby. And I stole that from Rotten Tomatoes. I love that. I thought that was brilliant. And then obviously the critics agreed. It's once again 100% approval on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's always going to be a critic's darling and an Emmy fave as well. How does that make you feel, Dane, that all the hard work, it's really responding with audiences, critics, and the industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's super satisfying to see people like what you spend most of your life doing, or it feels that way. Once you reach the end of the show, you spend so much time putting it together. And for an editor, a lot of that is me alone in a room. So when it goes out into the world and people like it, it is very satisfying. You just kind of keep hoping that when we put in the same amount of work each season, that people like it.
Yeah, that it doesn't drop off. What about you, Yana? Final thoughts for you?
Well, I never cease to be amazed that this show or that the movie ever found an audience. It felt like when we were making it that it was just such a weird, idiosyncratic thing that made us laugh. And the fact that other people find it funny and have embraced it has been enormously satisfying and gratifying, that my weird Russian sense of humor lands with other people. That they could find it funny too is marvelous.
Yeah, it really must be. It must be so gratifying, and I look forward to the next season. And once again, thank you for your time today, and congrats on your second Emmy nomination together. Hopefully, we'll see you on the red carpet at some point soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.